Hey, welcome to Sports Unfolded NHL Ranking Show. I am your host, Eric. My main man right over there, Ron, my hockey guru. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This list was
Surprising?
definitely different than anything we've ever had before, and
Yeah,
there's
I
going to
know.
be a lot of controversy with this list.
Well, of course, and I'm already kicking myself in the butt for number five. But look, when you get a league that only one team went unblemished in the week, you're gonna have some issues. So, and this, the start of this season has been quite surprising in a lot of aspects.
Very,
So
very similar to the NFL season, where we're seeing some teams that we wouldn't expect to be where they are right now, and
right,
clearly have been a top team. I mean, granted, the NHL season's much longer, and a lot can change, but very interesting. Very
yeah,
interesting. So let's bring that list up so we can just kind of discuss that, and then we'll go into how you got to this point. But at number 5, you got the Florida Panthers,
yep,
the Buffalo Sabres at 4, which is definitely one of those teams that I would question as well. Boston Bruins at 3, Carolina Hurricanes at 2, and the Calgary Flames, the only Western Conference team
yeah,
on this list. So that was pretty interesting as well, as I saw that and we got to that point. So let's start right off at that number 5 team, and you tell me how
yeah.
you.
That's the one that I had a lot of trouble with. Like I knew the top four. I knew who I was putting at 1, 2, 3, and 4. I knew that right away. And number five was one that really gave me a problem because I had Pittsburgh in the mix, I had Dallas in the mix, and I had Vegas in the mix.
Yeah, I had all those teams up there. I'm gonna bring up two other teams that you possibly could have talked about, and that's the Chicago Blackhawks, who are 4-2 and won 4 straight, and
Yeah,
the Ottawa Senators, who have won 4 straight and are 4-2.
correct. Again, they were a little further down on my list because I actually had St. Louis in that mix as well. Um, but they just came off of a loss. Like every team lost except for number four, Buffalo. So trying to get somebody that was on a roll was impossible because every team in the league lost at least one game last week. And the other two teams that I really wanted to keep on the list happened to play last night, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted, and that was Colorado and New York Rangers, um, both which had losses. The Rangers had lost to San Jose and Columbus last week, and Colorado, they lost to Winnipeg and Seattle last week. So they both had really bad losses. So I
Yeah,
couldn't keep them in there. So I dropped them both. And then when I analyzed, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Vegas, and Florida, Florida to me had the easiest schedule and were most likely to stay in, and I went with them, and then they just go and lose to Chicago. So,
yeah.
so what does that tell you?
Blackhawks should have been in. That would have really
So,
made this list interesting.
yeah, it would have made it interesting, of course.
Imagine
But
having Chicago Blackhawks and the Buffalo Sabres on the same list.
oh my God, that would be too shocking.
That is pretty intense. Let's
But
talk about.
Chicago's off to a good start this week,
Yeah,
so it could happen next week.
unreal. So that was Florida, but tell me about these Buffalo Sabres. I'm really
Yeah,
surprised they're on there.
look, Buffalo, they won all their games last week. They're 4-1.
Four and
So,
two. They lost.
well,
They
again,
lost the
they
last
just
game.
lost to what, Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does this tell you? The league right now, everybody's trying to find themselves, and everybody is playing pretty well, to be honest with you. For the most part, except for Vancouver, maybe. But look, Buffalo had wins over Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. Beating Edmonton and Calgary are big
Big,
because
yeah,
those are
very
good
good teams.
teams, especially Calgary, who I still have at number one, even with that loss. So, I just thought Buffalo, was the team that you had to put in there. And because they went 3-0 last week, what was the chances then losing to Seattle, right? Because they had Seattle, Montreal, Chicago, and Detroit. A pretty easy schedule for the week. So I was sure that they could have possibly pushed, even higher. But the loss against Seattle now kind of.
So I'll ask you this. I know, granted, again, very early in the season,
Yes.
but is this a good sign for the Buffalo Sabres? Are they a team to be in the mix this season when it comes to the playoffs? I mean, hockey, you get a bunch of teams in.
Playoffs.
So.
Yeah, playoffs. They could push for that last spot. I don't think they're going to quite make it this year, but they're playing pretty well right now, and that's what you want. But the loss to Seattle hurts, and now if they go into Montreal and say they lose that game, or possibly even Detroit, of course I'm like discrediting Chicago already, but we see
Detroit playing well again.
yeah, they're all playing pretty well.
A lot of teams playing very well right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like right now, the NHL, all these teams are trying to find themselves, and they're really making a push to try to start the season off right. And if you can get a good start, there's a good chance you can keep the momentum going, and that's what all these teams are doing right now. And you're seeing teams like Tampa Bay kind of struggling. They're just floating around right now. But when it comes down to it, those stronger teams do end up making a push, and because they've been there, done that, and they know how to win, and they'll just get it together. And then some of these teams will start, piling up some losses, and then So I don't see Buffalo being able to hang in there at all. I mean, I thought they would have made one more week, but it doesn't look like they're going to do that because now they still have 3 more games, and the chances are they're going to lose another one of those and probably drop out.
Okay. All right. So we could say Homer pick at 3, but I honestly look at the numbers and they are playing extremely well. 6-1 right now.
Yeah, I wanted them to get out of there, because I don't like to jinx them. But look, they are playing well and not a full squad. You're missing 2 all-stars really. You're missing Marchand and you're missing McAvoy. McAvoy's probably, I would probably put him in the top 5 or 6 defensemen in the league, and that's a big loss. Because he eats up so many minutes on that blue line. When you're going to be playing like 30 minutes in a game, that's a lot to have to make up for. And the guys behind him, especially Forbert and Clifton, they have really come through, and they're just getting solid play all through their blue line.
Point differential +10, tied for first overall. So they're winning. They're winning big.
Yes.
The only team that has the same amount would be Vegas.
Yeah.
At +10. So
kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Cassidy.
That's what I'm saying. Cassidy and now Montgomery. The new coaching regime in Boston, is it helping? Yeah. Do you see a change? Is that what's caused this?
Oh, it's absolutely. It's almost like he took the team that played, under Cassidy, and Cassidy had him playing pretty well, but being a young player, really, you're not going to do well with Cassidy. But he's just taken the team and basically saying, okay, let's play a little looser, because you guys already know how to play defense. You guys already know how to cover your man in your own end. So let's now take that to another level. And all these players seem to be flourishing. And it doesn't help when you get a Krejci back and you put him on a line with Hall and Pasternak, and it's no accident that Pasternak has 5 goals and Hall has 4 already. So, that's an improvement when you have that line clicking.
If a free agent pickup, I mean, you get a guy with so much experience and he's been there. So it's not even basically putting him back in. It was like him being injured for a year and now he's back.
And it's like it's like he's still wearing the A on his jersey. So, it's like somebody just put his locker, in there and it just like kept it closed and say that, hey, I'll be back next year. And he comes in and didn't miss a beat. Because when you think about it, this team, Krejci was the point leader on this team, before he left.
Yep.
So it only makes sense that they were going to be really good when you're adding now Pasternak and Hall to his line. Like, because when you look at it, he didn't have those guys on his
Yep.
line. Hall came in, last year. And Pasternak was with Bergeron and Marchand. So Hall really didn't have the talent that he has now. And, Krejci, rather, didn't have the talent. And now Krejci is looking like, like a top player in the league because of being sidelines with those two guys there, and it's just a world of a difference, over Haller. Not taking anything away from Haller, he did an admirable job, but that's not the player he is.
Yeah, no, it's great for the Boston Bruins. It just goes to show that.
And then you throw in
decisions.
you throw in Hampus Lindholm, who has picked up all that slack when McAvoy, Grizzlick and Carlo, who was out for a few games, with a concussion. He's a +7 right now. He's 8th in the league in plus minus, and he's chipping in 2 goals, 3 assists, which is pretty good. That's good for a Bruin defenseman.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt when you have Bergeron winning like 70% of your faceoffs. Like, he's on a clip now that's going to blow away records. So it's just crazy.
Let's hopefully they continue this pace. Let's talk about the number 2 team. That's the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, it's like Carolina. They haven't been perfect, but this team is still scary when you watch them play. Even the games that they haven't won, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I'll tell you, Antti Ranta, he is 6th in the league with goals against at 1.93. He has been the reason. And Andrei Svechnikov, oh my God, 7 goals already this season.
Wow.
I mean, that is, you're looking at Draisaitl on this team, basically. I mean, he leads the league in goals. He's tied, and that's a lot of offensive power for Carolina. When you're talking Aho and then you have Svechnikov now chipping in with goals, this changes a lot. So if you add a Patrick Kane at deadline, this team is going to be scary.
And it reminds me a little bit of the Boston Celtics. We talked about losing in the finals. This team was Stanley Cup finals bound.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay just willed themselves to get past them. Yeah. There's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right now, and you can say that they're playing solid hockey because they know they gave up an opportunity last season, and I feel like they're not going to do it this season.
Look, they lost to Edmonton this past week, and Calgary in overtime. So they didn't lose to terrible teams, So their loss, because one of the Calgary was an overtime loss. So they're 4-1-1. So, like I said, they're not perfect, but this team is a machine, and I expect them to be in the top 2 or 3 the whole year.
Very good team. But let's talk about that number 1 team. It's the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, it's hard to believe when you lose Kachuk and a Gaudreau and you actually get better. Like, I mean, how do you do it? But they did it. And they're doing it across the board, and the guy that has stepped up, Rasmus Anderson, on defense, he's got 7 points already. He's number 3 for defensemen in points. And, he's got 6 assists. He's 2nd in defensemen in assists. So, I mean, you're looking at numbers that, Makar gets. I mean, this is the numbers that he's putting up already. And, when you talk about the losses that they sustained, and then you pick up, Huberdeau in that trade,
Yeah.
but you also got Uyghur. And so you're basically a +1 player right there because you trade Huberdeau for Kachuk. Yeah, I know they're different kinds of players, but what that did is it made a playmaker come in and makes other players better around him. Kachuk didn't make anybody else better around him. Kachuk just knows how to score.
Yeah.
He knows how to shoot. He knows how to score. He knows where to go to get those goals, the dirty goals where you're scrapping in front of that net and you're taking hits. But Huberdeau makes players better, and he's making everybody better around him. And then when you throw in, you also pick up a Kadri. I mean, Kadri is playing fantastic. He's got 4 goals, 5 assists, so he's picked up right where he left off. So this is not a Colorado thing. This is a Kadri thing.
So the amazing part of this is both of those teams are in this top 5 list right now.
Yes.
And they could have went either way when it came to these trades and it not working.
Right.
You got the number 1 team and the number 5 team, and we could say Florida realistically should remain on this list probably for some time as well. Good top quality
in theory
that got traded, but it's worked out for both teams, which you don't see too often.
Yeah, I don't love the Florida team. It was just out of the choices that I had to make a decision on who I felt could have stayed in there. Like I said, I predicted Boston to beat Dallas, and that happened. So, that was one of those things that I made a decision. Dallas probably would have been my second choice, but I was pretty sure that the Bruins were going to beat Dallas, and I was right. But who would have thought that Florida would have lost to, the Chicago Blackhawks at this point? So that's what it came down to.
All right, let's bring that list up one more time before we go into Do You Remember, Ron? I got a real...
I love that segment. And
here's that list again. So at 5, Florida Panthers. 4, the Buffalo Sabres. I know a lot of people were controversial. Ron just explained it to you how they got there. At 3, the Boston Bruins, which I could say possibly could be higher on this list. Carolina Hurricanes, and the number 1 team this week, Calgary Flames. Each week we update this. Ron does a phenomenal job with this list. So thank you.
I look at everything. I look at their schedule, who they beat, who they're going to be playing, their record, just the overall play of the team. Because I do watch a lot of games. Like I watched the Bruins last night, even though I missed the first period, but that's besides the point. But I did get to catch the rest of the Colorado Rangers game, and those two teams are just phenomenal. Look, those two teams are going to be in there eventually. Colorado probably this week they're going to climb back in, but they'll be there in the long run. I think those two teams are potential Stanley Cup teams.
It's going to be fun every week to watch and see what happens.
And don't count out like Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh, I was thinking about putting them in, but again, they just need another week. So if they beat Calgary, and take care of business for the rest of the week. But I don't know. I know they played, I believe, last night.
I am looking forward to seeing the Chicago Blackhawks and the Buffalo Sabres on our list next week. That would be my
Buffalo
ultimate
got a
dream.
loss, so I don't know if they're going to stay on that list.
That would be my ultimate dream, though, because I don't think anybody would ever say that based on what we did. If you enjoy hockey, check out Rhode Island Broadcasting. We did our NHL preview show a couple weeks ago. We broke down all these teams, and we said Chicago was not going to be one of those teams that was going to be very competitive. And currently they are. And the Buffalo Sabres, we said we're an okay team on the rise, building towards something in a few years. And look at them today. They're on a top 5 list.
Yeah, and Buffalo and Ottawa are those two bubble teams that you look at that they could knock somebody off. And let me tell you, Toronto is looking pretty bad right now.
And we like the signings with Ottawa. We thought they made a lot of good moves in the offseason.
Yeah.
And they're a team that I feel like is going to be on this list sooner than later.
Yeah, they definitely could be. They got some skill there. They got some good players. It's just whether or not players like Claude Giroux can teach them how to win. not that Claude Giroux has won anything, but he's been around for a
Veteran, yeah.
long time. So, um, we'll have to wait and see. They might be another piece away, but if they do get that piece this year, they're going to be tough.
All right. So it's time for Do You Remember? And I know you love this segment, and I will do my best. I've got a real stumper for you, I believe, this week.
Yeah.
A real stumper. But we're going to start off with this top goaltender of the Washington Capitals back in the day. Actually, this is a little twist to it.
Oh, it's where he played before.
He played afterwards on 2 teams in the same season. So he got traded and then traded again and ended his career with that team, even though he never set foot on or skates on the ice with that team.
Oh my gosh.
Caps goaltender. Fairly recent.
It's got to be God. Why do I have Holtby on my head?
It's not Holtby.
No, it's not. I know who it is too, and I can't think of his name. Oh my God. And I also want to think that he played in Dallas.
I don't believe so, but
yeah, this one's got me.
Right.
Maybe we're gonna say Pete Peters.
All right, let's bring him up. Yeah, and there's a few guys on there, but obviously pay attention to the goaltender. Olaf Kolzig.
Oh, goalie! Oh my God! How did I miss that? Oh,
so he got traded to Tampa Bay. You see him there in the Tampa Bay uniform, but then he got traded to Toronto. But because of an injury, he never actually played for Toronto. He retired as a Maple Leaf.
Yeah,
but never actually played with the Maple Leafs.
No, I don't think he wanted to go to Toronto. That's probably why.
So I found
he was a pretty good goaltender. I have to say, he was pretty good. I mean, he's
I think it's 300 plus wins with the Capitals.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He was their backbone for quite a while, and I can't believe I couldn't remember the goaltender, and I had a feeling I was like, I'm gonna know it as soon as he says it. And yeah, you got me on that one.
All right. This player, one of the top players all time with the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, okay.
Traded or went to another team at the age of 41, retired with that team. That team had picked him up thinking Stanley Cup finals, did not get to the finals. He ended up retiring. Yeah. What do you got?
I think it's Daniel Alfredsson.
You nailed it, my friend.
He was such a good player. Oh my God! Look, he was so good. Yeah, and Detroit missed out on that season, and they blew it because Daniel Alfredsson he should have helped them to win one.
Yeah. So really, really fun. Again, one of probably the top players in Ottawa's history. Like
absolutely,
a big fan favorite there, and to see him in another sweater, it's just weird sometimes to see these.
Yeah, it is. It's different to see him in something other than Ottawa.
I think he was so good for so long. When we did the Brian Leetch one, and your reaction to him being on the Bruins, it was.
I forgot he was there. Forgot he was there.
Sometimes so weird to see these guys.
Because he's a Ranger, it's hard to see. It really is hard to see.
And you thought the Olaf one was a stumper. This is the real stumper. I'm not sure you're going to get this one because this isn't even a player, Ron. This isn't a player.
Oh, I'm going
to bring up this sweater, and you've got to tell me what organization this was.
The sweater? Oh, it's the Colorado Rockies.
Colorado Rockies, I did not know. 1976 to 1982. Yeah. So we think about the Colorado Avalanche. They actually had a team before that.
Yeah, and I believe it's the New Jersey Devils, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were in New Jersey, then they went to Colorado, then they moved back to New Jersey.
Wow. Okay. I thought that was going to stump you. Great job.
No, I remember that. I remember that pretty well. I started watching hockey when I was like, I don't know, like 6, 7 years old. I was a big Bruin and Red Sox fan back then, and watching hockey on a little like 10-inch black and white TV. You couldn't even see the puck; you just see the players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I remember Colorado. That's right.
It's just funny because Colorado Rockies now the Major League Baseball team, so they kept that nickname
Yep.
when they brought the baseball team in. So really fun. Next week I'm going to try to stump you again because there's another team. I'm not sure if you're going to remember.
Yeah,
this
you
one
got
either.
me with Oli. I knew there was a goaltender that was in there, and I knew it was not from like the 80s and 90s. I knew it was like the late 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s, and I couldn't remember his name.
Phenomenal. So this has been Sports Unfolded NHL Ranking Show. Tune in to us every Friday night, 6 p.m. on Rhode Island Broadcasting. We do our regularly scheduled program.
One more thing.
Sure.
Congratulations to Phil Kessel, the Iron Man.
Oh, man. Yes.
990 games in a row.
Yes.
I mean, that is like just to play 990 games in a career is amazing.
Who was the player from the Fly that they benched?
Keith Yandel. And he only got his stop because they decided to bench him to play some young players.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a crappy thing to do for somebody that's got an Iron Man streak going.
Yeah. So
bench
really
somebody else.
But yes, Phil Kessel, congratulations.
Yes.
Tune in every Friday night, 6 p.m., Rhode Island Broadcasting. You've seen how to follow us on social media. Check out Rhode Island Broadcasting, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So many different ways, Twitch, to follow us and watch us every Friday night. We cover all of the top stories in sports. So not just the NHL, everything. So if you like all sports, tune in, check that out. We look forward to seeing you then. Ron, it's always a pleasure to have these shows. I love them. Your hockey knowledge, as always, impeccable. Thank you so much for that. Fans out there, tune in. Check us out Fridays. And all we ask for every time is peace.
Take care, everybody.